My sister-in-law wouldn't save my drowning kid because of her trauma, and now I'm being told I overreacted by screaming at her. For context, I, 30 female, have one daughter named Heather, 2 female, with my husband. My brother, 36 male, is married to my sister-in-law, Kelly, 37 female. She has one son from an ex, 12 male, and one daughter, Sadie, 3 female, with my brother. We've never been super close, but before all this we had a good relationship overall, and I liked her. Kelly has a fear of going into water. When she was 6, she was at a family barbecue and began to drown in the pool. There were so many kids splashing around in the water the adults just thought she was playing or something like that. She lost consciousness and came very close to dying. She got into therapy, and has since allowed her son and Sadie to learn how to swim. When Sadie was 1 or 2 years old, she'd only allow it as long as her son or my brother were right next to her. Now she seems fairly laid back over having her kids in the water even without strict supervision. This was surprising to me, but it's her life, so I never commented. A few months ago she and my brother even told me she was doing exposure therapy and slowly learning to not let her fears control her. She's even had a small swim lesson and was feeling fairly calm walking around in a shallow pool. Every Thanksgiving and Christmas we go to visit my parents in their retirement neighborhood in Florida. Kelly has told me all about her past and the time we've spent together there for the holidays. It has a nice community pool with a recreation center. There's only a lifeguard on duty Saturday, but the recreation center has employees at the front desk if you go inside. While we were there for Thanksgiving, the Weather Channel predicted only one day would be nice enough for the kids to swim. My sister-in-law, brother, husband and I were planning to take them in the late afternoon. Grandparents were busy with some other event that day. I fell and sprained my ankle. My husband said he'd drive me to an urgent care. I didn't want my daughter to miss the pool outing, so I said I'd allow her to go with my brother's family. My brother and nephew promised to be by her side the whole time. My brother and nephew apparently wanted to play ping pong on the table that was in the recreation center. Sadie and Heather were still splashing in the shallow 3 feet end of the pool with Kelly watching in a lounge chair. She said they could go because she'd keep an eye on the girls and go get them if they get into any trouble. Kelly had put Heather in a pool tube around her waist to float. Somehow Heather flipped over and was stuck upside down in the water. She began to kick and panic, so Sadie got scared and started to cry. Kelly noticed and also started to freak out. She began to scream at Sadie to get her out or flip her back over. Sadie tried at first but wasn't strong enough and couldn't get a good grip. Plus she was scared and confused from her mother's yelling. I know she has a legitimate trauma, so I understand why that would scare her and would have been fine with her not jumping in herself. I wouldn't be so upset if she then had the common sense to run into the recreational center to grab anyone else to save my daughter. It was the next building over. If she had ran inside to ask for help, everything would have turned out a lot better. I have no idea what was going on in this woman's head, but she grabbed a pool net to try and get Heather out. This would have made sense if she had used it to guide my daughter to a place she could grab her out, but it seemed that she tried to carry my daughter in the net, and when she didn't fit, she moved to a different strategy that looked like just awkwardly smacking her. This moved Heather to the deeper part of the pool. She never seemed all that stupid to me, so I don't know why she tried to save my daughter in the most inefficient way possible. Eventually a recreation center employee heard her panicking and ran outside. He gave her CPR and she threw up a lot of water. They called an ambulance and my husband, and I met everyone at the hospital. Heather had a lot of bruises on her lower half. I asked what happened and Kelly told me about the pool net and everything. Plus how she hadn't immediately gotten someone else. I was so angry I yelled at the boys and her how she could see my daughter dying and not do anything. The first thing she said was literally, "Well, I kept yelling at Sadie to help her." This really pissed me off. She was blaming all this on her toddler. I know everyone mistakes, but seriously? When I asked her why she didn't sprint for help right away, she said she was overwhelmed and that I shouldn't attack her because my kid couldn't swim to save herself. The pool tube was around her waist and was trapping her upside down. This set me off. I was and still am disgusted with my brother, but her words made me break and lose it. I started to scream at her how pathetic she was and that she was just as bad as her family members who let her drown. I kept yelling until she started to sob and security made us stop. My husband and I were so upset we demanded to see the recreation center's footage from the pool security camera, and we saw exactly what happened. After we went back home, I sent a short text to Kelly that I was sorry for losing my cool. I was completely out of line and blamed the wrong person to deal with it all. She sent back a paragraph saying I'm a psycho for blaming her for her own trauma response. She even said maybe it would have been better for my daughter to die than have a mom like me. Obviously I haven't contacted her or my brother since. My parents began to yell at me when I yelled at Kelly, so I haven't spoken to them much either. For Christmas we aren't joining them this year. My husband fully agrees with me. My best friend and her family live a few hours away, so don't see her as often as I'd like. Since it's just us for Christmas, she offered to have us stay at her nice house so my daughter can play with her kids. A couple days ago we stayed up drinking wine and talking. She knew about it, but I told her all the details for the first time. After I was done, she asked if she could give me a bit of advice. I was curious what she wanted to say, so I said yes. She said what Kelly said was awful and she went way too far, especially with her text about my daughter. Plus it was stupid that her first thought was to yell at her toddler daughter to do something. Kelly could have handled it all way better with a calm start. Of course though, she was panicking so she couldn't think as clearly. I'm furious with my brother as well. I was so upset and was yelling at him too. It was what my sister-in-law said that really hurt and set me off. I was so panicked and wasn't thinking straight. I will never let my brother watch Heather while I'm busy doing something ever again. She said she understood why I felt so angry in the hospital, but I shouldn't have had such an emotional reaction, or at least should have found time to eventually sit down in person and apologize for my outburst. It was a stressful situation for everyone. The mean things Kelly said after were wrong. I should have sat down face to face to discuss all of our feeling and give both her and I the chance to apologize for what we said to each other. I'm feeling a lot more guilty now. I lashed out and she lashed out in turn. I talked to my husband about it, but he's still furious with them and says we don't owe them anything. I miss my niece and nephew. Am I in the wrong here? The guy I'm seeing legitimately thinks Santa Claus is real. I think he actually believes Santa is a real person in some capacity and thinks he delivers presents to his family personally. I'm probably going to leave tomorrow because it's been awful so far. I just want out. I'll call him Adam. Adam, 25 male, is from a pretty rural area up in the mountains, keeping it vague on purpose, and his family are what I consider religious extremists. He told me this before I, 23 female, came to see them for Christmas, that they were very religious, as are mine, so I thought it would be similar. I'm not seeing my family as I only have my abusive mom left, and we are no contact. I've only been seeing him a couple months and his beliefs have only came up minimally, and Santa Claus was not part of that. I don't even think we've mentioned it at all despite walking around Walmart with Christmas decorations and holiday stuff on shelves and him saying he wishes there was more Christian decorations. Adam and his family call Santa Saint Nick to start off with. He has a large family and we had a lot of regular Christmas Eve activities all day, including cooking breakfast and dinner with his family, sitting around and playing with the children, going to a church event around lunchtime. When we went to church, his mom would shake her head disapprovingly at some references toward Santa Claus the pastor made, and would whisper to his younger brother and her nephew next to her. I didn't hear what she said. When we made dinner, she told me to fix a plate for Saint Nick and I laughed and said, "Cookies aren't enough." And Adam shot me a horrified look. I felt the gaze of his mother and she gave me this sort of fake smile and said, "No, hun, that's not a filling meal." So I loaded up about as much as I gave Adam and the men in his family and put it on a plate. His mom put tin foil over it and put it in the fridge in the garage. At some point most of his family left. The children went to bed after about an hour of it being dark. Adam's mom told them to go settle into bed so Saint Nick can have his dinner and start to deliver presents. This gave me the implication that he would start his night here? Rather than just stop by, have cookies and leave. I'm not sure. His mom read a couple passages out of the Bible about family as we sat around the wood-burning stove, and we discussed my family situation a bit. Adam's dad then told Adam and I as well as his little sister to go to the guest house to sleep. It was about 9 p.m. I changed in the bathroom and said my goodnight to them and was about to walk out the door with Adam when his mom snapped her fingers and said, "Hun, you're forgetting the most important part of Christmas?" Adam looked pale for a second before kind of nervously laughing, and he stepped back to the door holding my hand. We went out into the garage where he grabbed the plate. I said something like, "She's really serious about Santa getting his food, huh?" Trying to lighten the mood. He squeezed my hand really hard and said, "Yes, I'd say it's serious." We went back in to microwave the meal and we awkwardly stood there in front of the microwave watching the plate turn around. I felt his parents' gaze on the back of my head. I said something again, I can't even remember what, kind of lighthearted about Santa having a full stomach if he eats like this at every house. Adam gripped my hand harder than he did before, and the first sign of affection he had given me in front of his parents all night, and said his name is St. Nicholas and he only eats his dinner here. Don't be disrespectful in our home. It sounds calm all typed out like that, but the way he said it gave me chills. His parents didn't say anything and I felt like I was going to cry. I left to walk in the backyard to the guest house, and his sister was waiting in this mostly empty living room area in there. She said she started the wood-burning stove there and she showed me where to sleep, a twin bed next to her, and said Adam would be in the next room over with his younger brother. I just laid down and I heard Adam come in maybe half an hour later and go straight to bed. I've just been laying here unable to get sleep because I'm so anxious, and I already hear movement in the main house at this point and I don't know what to think. I thought after everyone had left, mostly small children, the Saint Nick talk would end. I think his family, or at least him and everyone younger, legitimately believe this is a real person. His parents are really strict and live relatively off-grid and isolated. I barely have service here so I'll see if this posts, because I can't even text my friends SOS right now. I feel like I'm in a horror movie where they believe Santa is like a distant uncle or something. Does anyone know of any traditions like this? They killed a pig sometime in the last week as well as a couple chickens and the whole family is coming back tomorrow, and maybe it'll be less weird with more people being here? A few of his cousins gave me a more modern vibe rather than the rest of his nuclear family. But I don't know. I might just head back and stay at my apartment a couple hours away alone. I don't think I can continue seeing him. It's just been so weird. My brother hates my boyfriend and asked me to choose. I'm 17, female, and my brother, 24 male, hates my boyfriend, 17. I started dating my boyfriend this year, and we've been together for 7 months. He's the nicest and sweetest person I know. He's always there when I need him, he's comforting and respectful. Everyone in my family gets along with him except my brother. My brother despises him, and I'm not sure why. There will be times where my brother would purposefully lock him out of our house or compare himself to him. My boyfriend has been nothing but nice to my brother, and my brother has just been cruel. Me and my boyfriend were friends prior to dating, and my boyfriend and him were getting along just fine, but as soon as we started dating, he started acting weird. When my boyfriend would hug me, my brother would look disgusted and get upset and storm out of the house. Mind you, my brother is married, and even his wife has taken notice of his behavior. There are times where my brother would tell me that he will always come before any man in my life and that my boyfriend is just temporary, and I should just keep him for enjoyment. The final breaking point was when we were all sitting down for Thanksgiving, and out of nowhere, my brother brought up the fact that my boyfriend's mom is a single parent. He started asking if his mom takes food stamps or if she worked more than one job. My dad told my brother to stop and tried to change the convo. At that point, I had enough and told him to apologize before me and my boyfriend got up and left. Once we left, he started blowing up my phone, saying that no man will love me as much as he loves me and that he can't believe I would up and leave. He said if I don't break up with him, that he will have no choice but to leave my life forever. He then said that if he was my boyfriend, he wouldn't have just left, that he would have stood his ground. I don't know what to think or what to do. At this point, I'm over my brother. I love my boyfriend, and I know he loves me, and I don't want to leave him. But at the same time, my brother is my blood, and I don't want to abandon him. Update 12 days later, I ended up speaking to my brother about the whole thing. Explained to him how the way he reacted was unnecessary. He told me that he was sorry and that he was just really upset about me leaving. Even had my dad sit in on the conversation, and my dad told him that he needs to respect my privacy and vice versa. My brother agreed and kept saying he was sorry and that he was just looking out for me and, you know, that bull crap he always says to try and make himself look better. Not even a day later, I texted my boyfriend good morning. No response. I texted him hey later in the day, still no response. I didn't get a response until 1 a.m., and it was basically a paragraph of him saying that he thinks we should break up and that I, as in me, needs to focus on better things. I tried to ask him if we can speak in person about this, he didn't reply, and now we're on winter break so I can't even see him at school. I haven't told anybody we broke up, not even my parents, but my brother all of a sudden seems happier and has been coming around the house more often. I honestly despise my brother and genuinely can't stand him. I've tried texting my boyfriend, well now ex, begging him to at least just call me? Like even if you don't want to see me in person at least just call me and tell me why? I feel terrible, and I can't even blame him.
My mom explained why she's always been partial to my sister. Okay, so I, 17 male, have a twin sister, and if I'm being honest, our mom has always seemed more partial to her. She's always far quicker to give her hugs and compliments, and she seems a bit more emotionally distant to me. I've noticed it my whole life and I've tried not to let it bother me, but things finally came to a head recently. I don't really want to get into the inciting incident that started this. Long story short, we've been looking at colleges and I was upset because it seemed like she wanted my sister to stay local more than she wanted me to, and I told her she loved my sister more than me our whole lives, and she didn't give a crap about me, and I'm still not sure why. Today she came in my room and asked if we could talk, and she said there's something she felt it was time to tell me. Then she opened up about her childhood, something she's never done, and explained that her father SA'd her and she had brothers who SA'd her too, and it instilled a deep disdain towards men in her. She told me she's been meaning to go to therapy and get help, but she told me it breaks her heart that she ever made me feel like she loved me less than my sister, and she's been trying my whole life to get over it and grow up in that. It breaks her heart that I haven't had the mom I deserve. She started crying and I hugged her and told her I loved her and she was a great mom and I was lucky to have her. Afterwards I suggested we go out to dinner, just the two of us, and I could pay, and she said she'd take me up on that under the condition she'd pay. So we had a really nice dinner and we talked and I felt I connected with her in a way I hadn't before. I can't really explain it, but I felt like I saw her and she saw me in a different, but good, way. Overall, gonna be honest, I feel terrible because I feel like I made her trauma all about me. She's a wonderful person and I don't know why I'd accuse her of not loving me like she loves my sister. All I know is that I'm gonna be better to her and understand she's doing her best, as we all are. That's all. Just figured I'd share somewhere. I ended up pretending to be mute on a flight by accident, and then embarrassingly forgot and broke character. This happened a while ago, but I still cringe when I think about it. I hopped on a short flight from Dallas to San Antonio to visit my brother. I ended up on an all seat towards the very back of a packed plane. As I sat, the guy seated next to me was busy, and I decided not to bug him with the quick hello or the classic, business or pleasure question that people tend to ask. About 15 minutes into the flight I began to eat one of those very dry Biscoff crackers. Without water on hand, I realized I overcommitted my salivary gland for some real work. Of course, at this exact moment, my seatmate begins his opening introduction. I nod to him and smile, but I was not about to open my mouth to pepper him with Biscoff cracker dust. Unaware of my dilemma, he asked me a question. I motioned to my throat with my hand to suggest I was finishing a bite. His eyes go large and he quickly apologizes and turns red in the face with embarrassment. I was surprised by his reaction and thought his response was a little over the top. A few seconds later I realized that he thought I was motioning that I could not speak. No problem, I would clarify everything as soon as I could swallow my cracker. Unfortunately, this cracker must have been made from some properties that send all moisture to another dimension. As I waited, the stewardess came to save the day with a drink cart. She asked me what I wanted to drink, and I just pointed at a Sprite can. As I did this, my seatmate clarified my choice by verbally telling the stewardess my selection. I could tell that he felt a sense of accomplishment that he was able to help me communicate given my perceived disability. Maybe it made him feel better after having asked me a question that I was unable to answer. As the flight continued, I realized that I accidentally committed myself to becoming mute. I was at the point of no return, so I figured I would just go with it. I didn't want to make him feel stupid. He began to tell me a couple things about his family. He mentioned a relative with a similar impairment following a stroke. He also showed me a picture of his dog on his phone. He knew I could not respond, so he never asked me any questions. I just nodded and smiled at anything he said to be polite, not uttering a sound. Eventually our plane lands. By this time I forgot about my act. I sat patiently as people began to deplane. Being at the very back of the plane, I knew I had to wait, so I remained seated. My phone vibrates. I see that it is my brother calling me. I accept the call and enthusiastically say, "What's up? I just landed. Give me about 10 minutes and I will meet you out front." My memory sends me a notice a little too late to remind me that I am supposed to be playing the role of mute person on this plane. I slowly look over to my seatmate to see if he really even noticed. His head was directly aimed at me. He had the most disgusted look on his face, like I punched a baby bunny. I turned red. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't think of anything to say to make the moment less awkward. A part of my brain that does not get outside much convinced me to get out of the plane quickly. I turned that thought into action and I quickly got out of my chair and grabbed my backpack. I looked back at the guy and I can confirm that he was more committed to maintaining his disgusted expression than I was at being mute. I quickly looked at the person in front of me standing in the aisle. I could go nowhere. I remained standing for about another eternity until the line started to ease up. I finally made my escape, but this moment still haunts me. I found my girlfriend's secret stash, and it seems very fishy why she would keep this from me. I, 30 male, have been with my girlfriend, 28 female, for around 3 years now, and we've been living together for half of that. Our relationship is mostly great, though love-making and romance has been a reoccurring issue. We rent a 3-bedroom house together. We share one room and then we each have another bedroom as our personal office since we both work hybrid jobs. In the first little bit when we moved in, love-making and romance, date nights, were much more frequent than they are now, tapering off gradually after the first 6 months in. I figured at first that this was normal and that it was just part of normal ebb and flow after the honeymoon phase of moving in, but it's been almost a year and it feels like nothing has changed. I don't believe it is due to any lack of effort on my part. I still do my fair share of the housework, I eat healthy and go to the gym, I take care of my physical appearance, I get her gifts here and there, I always compliment her and tell her she's beautiful, I'm always trying to keep the romance alive, setting up nice date nights and putting on nice clothes for her, and yes, I do shower and wash my private parts so I don't have swamp booty. It's sad that I have to make that clear, but this is Reddit after all. However, at least 70% of the time the date nights are met with her putting in much less effort than me, or her simply not wanting to go on a date night because she makes some excuse about being too tired or busy. The lovemaking is also vanilla at best. It mostly consists of a quickie once a week at best before we go to bed. I've asked her if she could put on some lingerie for me, but she balked at the idea. I even tried wearing mesh boxers and a banana hammock once, and she just laughed at me. Fast forward to this past weekend, my girlfriend is out of town for the next 2 weeks to spend the holidays with her family. Yesterday I was at home in my office filling out something, but my pen went dry, so I went into her office to see if there was a spare one I could use in there. I noticed something lacy and pink poking out of one of the drawers. It has a cutout handle which you can see inside, which was odd since I've never seen her wear anything lacy or pink. My curiosity got the better of me and I opened up the drawer, and lo and behold it was full of lingerie and even costumes, including a schoolgirl costume which she mentioned once in passing that she finds gross. Some of it still has tags on and some doesn't. Given that I helped her pack and unpack everything, including her clothes, she either bought this after moving here, or she stowed it somewhere else until after the move. I'm at a loss for words here. I'm confused and suspicious. All sorts of questions are running through my head. Why would she waste so much money on something she disdains the idea of wearing, considering she's such a frugal person? Why does she feel the need to hide this from me? Does she plan to wear this for someone else? Is she doing OnlyFans or something and keeping me in the dark? I can't help but think something very fishy is going on, but I don't know how to bring it up to her.
I think my husband is sleeping with the babysitter. I'm still trying to process this in my mind while typing this out. My husband and I have been together for 6 years, and married for 4. We have 2 children, a 2-year-old and 4-year-old. Both of us work full-time. I'm realtor and husband owns his own business. We've had a number of different nannies in the past. Sometimes our parents end up watching the kids. About 8 months ago my husband told me that one of his friend's daughter, Ella, 20 female, was looking for a part-time job during college. We live in a small college town, so her commute wouldn't be far. We tried her out one night, and it went smoothly. She's always been nice to me, and the kids love her. My suspicions started last month when I came home early to find my husband had been home. Ella was also at the house babysitting. I asked my husband why he didn't send her home if he was home. His response was, "She's just trying to make a little money, and that the kids were having fun." Then 2 weeks ago I drove by my husband's office on the way to a meeting, and her car was parked there. I asked my husband later about what Ella was doing at the office. He said that she probably stopped by to see her dad. Now when I come home, Ella is always dressed up more with makeup done, and heels on. 2 days ago I found strands of blonde hair in the back seat of my husband's truck. I have blonde hair, but this was closer to Ella's shade. Also, I don't think my husband would do anything in the back seat since he's 6'6", 240 pounds. Last night I found the opportunity to check my husband's phone while he was with the kids. I didn't find any romantic texts between them, but I could definitely tell that text messages had been deleted. If you read the conversation, it didn't make sense, because it was obviously missing the middle part. I talked to my friend this morning, and she pointed out that my husband has a type, blonde women. Ella falls perfectly in that category. Should I confront him right now, or should I wait to find something more concrete? Update 1, Nanny is currently at the house right now. I tracked husband using Find My iPhone, and he's also headed home, a 30-minute drive. They both think I'll be working until 7 p.m. today. I'm going to walk into the house 15 minutes after my husband gets home unannounced. Not sure what the plan is if I catch them. I unfortunately don't have access to his phone logs, since his phone plan is through his business. We have cameras on the outside of the house. We have a baby monitor near the kid's bed. I'm not ready to fire her unless I get solid evidence of my husband cheating. I need to know if my husband is having any sort of romantic relationship with her first. Update 2. I wasn't able to get the concrete evidence I was looking for, but some more circumstantial evidence. I tracked husband through Find My iPhone. He stopped on his way home at the grocery store for 10 minutes. I decided to park and wait on a side street. That way I could see when my husband would get home. Husband got home at 5:30 p.m. Ella was scheduled to work until 6 p.m. We have a long gravel driveway that leads to our house. I decided to park near the barn so I wouldn't be heard pulling up to the house. I walked in the front door and found Ella feeding my 4-year-old. She was also preparing dinner in the kitchen. Today she had on a tight top, skirt, and platform heels. I asked if she knew where my husband was. She replied he was upstairs taking a shower. She then immediately went over to the living room to pick up her phone and send a text message to someone. Also in the living room were a fresh bouquet of flowers. I asked her about the flowers, and she said a guy she's been seeing gave them to her today. She said she didn't want to leave them in the car, so she brought them inside. I asked her about the guy that she was seeing. She said he was from school, and wasn't sure if it was going anywhere. I went upstairs to see if my husband left his phone in the bedroom. He left his phone on the dresser. Sure enough, the newest text message was from Ella that read, "Your wife is home." I tried looking up the deleted messages on his phone, but they had been permanently deleted. I decided to wait in our bedroom for my husband to come out of the shower. He comes out and is surprised to see me in the bedroom. I told him my 6:30 showing got cancelled. I tried to initiate lovemaking to see how he would react. He said he didn't feel comfortable doing it while Ella was in the house. At this point, Ella was upstairs in my younger son's room, which shares a wall with our room. Ella leaves the house at 6 p.m. with the flowers. After dinner, my husband mentioned to me about buying Ella a new car for Christmas, and his reasoning was that her car was old and not safe for our kids to ride in. I told him that I would think about it. I'm thinking about firing her on Monday without telling my husband and see how they both react. I'm still trying to process everything going on. Still hoping all of this is just me overthinking. I really love my husband, and I can't stand the thought of our beautiful family splitting up. Thanks for all the advice. Update 3. Yesterday morning I met up with Ella and told her that we wouldn't be needing her services anymore due to my little sister being available to watch the kids, which is true. She quietly said that she understood and said to let her know if I would change my mind. My husband called me 5 minutes later sounding very upset about Ella being fired. I think Ella told him, but he claimed her dad told him that we fired her. I told him that was my final decision, and there was no changing it. He came home 20 minutes later and asked me why I didn't talk to him first about firing her. I told him about everything I've noticed between them, from the texts to the clothing attire she wears. He denied everything, and said it was all in my head. I told him if you want this marriage not to end in a divorce, he had to cut all contact with Ella. After 1 hour of arguing, he finally agreed to not contact her anymore. I honestly don't have the mental energy to deal with a divorce, split my kids, and date again. I don't want to be the single mom always busy and unhappy. I told him to never bring her up again. I don't know 100% if they had an affair, but I think it's better for my health not to find out. I think I'm going to quit my job and raise my kids, work on my marriage. I'm not sure if this was all because I've been working a lot of hours and have been distant from my husband. Thanks again for all the support. One more thing, men, please stop messaging me pictures of your private parts on Reddit. I am packing up my stuff and moving out before my fiancé comes home tomorrow. He, 38 male, just proposed to me, 37 female, a week ago and made me the happiest woman on earth. Why did he do that if he didn't love me? If I wasn't enough? I just can't understand what's happening. I'm so grateful I have my family. My brothers who left everything to come and help me move out my stuff before he got home. I don't know how to repay them. I know how busy they are with Christmas around the corner, and yet they dropped everything and came when they heard me crying on the phone. He usually goes on trips for work. This time, however, I found it odd that he was staying until Christmas Eve. Usually they are only away during the weekdays and rarely on weekends. I also found it odd that he didn't FaceTime me to say goodnight, and when I tried he said that he was too tired and apologized. He usually sleeps to my FaceTime to pretend I was with him. Then he sent me a goodnight picture of him in bed. I sent him a kiss. Then before going to bed I scrolled Instagram and he had shared that same picture, and one of our mutual friends commented, "Is that my name in the reflection? Say hi from me." I was confused, and sure enough I saw a woman reflected in his glasses. I didn't notice that when he sent me the picture, and probably he didn't either. I liked the comment. My fiancé didn't answer. Probably he wasn't online. I didn't know what to do. It was already late at night, but I felt like the world was closing in around me, so I called my mom crying and she asked me to come home. I said no, I needed to start packing, and I have been doing it all night. This morning my brothers and my parents showed up with a moving van. I love them so much. My fiancé has now deleted the picture. He probably saw that I liked the comment about the woman in the reflection. He has called me over 100 times and is still calling me. I will never see or speak to him ever again. He will never see me crying. I will never ask why. He will never get the chance to explain. He can stay in hotels with all the women in the world for all I care. Why do these things happen? I really thought he was happy. That I made him happy. How could he?